In the musty, forgotten corners of our old house, there were whispers of the past, echoes of a life once lived, now just a lingering memory. My younger brother, Alex, and I often felt these whispers most intensely in the evenings, when the shadows stretched long and our father was away at his night job. The house, with its creaky floorboards and drafty windows, always seemed to be speaking to us, telling tales of days gone by. But it wasn't until the strange occurrences began that we truly started to listen. It was the summer I turned 13 when the first oddity occurred, a subtle but noticeable shift in the harmony of our home. Our mother had passed away 2 years prior, leaving an unfillable void in our lives and in the house she had so lovingly cared for. Her absence was a constant presence, an unspoken sadness that hung in the air like dust in the sunlight. One evening, after a dinner of reheated casserole that Dad had prepared before leaving for work, Alex and I decided to explore the attic. It was our little adventure, a way to escape the gloom that had settled over us since Mom's passing. The attic was a time capsule filled with relics of our family's history. Old photo albums, Mom's wedding dress, boxes of Dad's childhood toys. But that day, we found something new, something that hadn't been there before. Lined up neatly on an old trunk were a series of small objects: a faded photograph of our mother, a rusty key, a porcelain doll with a cracked face, and a tattered book of fairy tales. It was odd, almost like someone had arranged them there for us to find. We asked Dad about it the next morning, but he just shrugged, suggesting we had probably moved them ourselves and forgotten. But Alex and I were certain it wasn't us. The mystery of the objects lingered in our minds, a puzzle we couldn't solve. Not long after, the house began to make noises. At first we thought it was just the usual creaks and groans of an old building settling. But these sounds were different, a soft rhythmic scratching coming from the walls, like the scuttling of tiny feet, or perhaps the dragging of fingers across the old plaster. Alex, with the imaginative mind of a 9-year-old, was convinced it was the house talking to us. I tried to laugh it off, but inside I felt a growing sense of unease. Then came the night when the piano played. Our mother had been a talented pianist, her music filling the house with life and joy. But since her death, the piano had remained silent, a somber reminder of what we had lost. That night, as Alex and I lay in our beds, a single haunting note drifted through the house, hanging in the air before fading away. We both sat up, eyes wide in the darkness. There was no explanation. We were alone in the house, and neither of us had touched the piano. In the days that followed, the strange occurrences grew more frequent and more unsettling. Doors that we were certain we had closed were found ajar. Items went missing, only to reappear in the most unlikely places. Alex's toy soldiers, which he always arranged in meticulous formations, were constantly being rearranged into chaotic, nonsensical patterns. It was as if an unseen hand was moving through our home, altering our reality in small but significant ways. The most unsettling incident happened on a stormy night. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows in their frames, as Alex and I huddled together in the living room, trying to watch a movie to distract ourselves from the storm. Suddenly, the power flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. We scrambled for flashlights, the beam of light cutting through the blackness as we moved to light candles. That's when we saw it. A set of wet, muddy footprints leading from the back door, which was ajar, all the way to the attic stairs. We followed them, hearts pounding, only to find the attic door locked from the inside. We were terrified, convinced that someone or something was in the house with us. But when Dad came home the next morning, he found nothing amiss. The footprints were gone, as if they had never been there, and the attic door was unlocked just as it always was. He assured us it was just our imagination, the storm playing tricks on our minds. But Alex and I knew what we had seen. We knew that something was not right in our home, something unexplainable and deeply unsettling. As the summer wore on, the atmosphere in the house grew heavier, charged with a sense of anticipation, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Alex and I felt it too, a growing sense of dread that followed us through the empty rooms and echoed in the silence. We didn't understand what was happening, but we knew that our once familiar home had become a place of mystery and fear. a place where the past and the present seemed to collide in the most unexpected of ways. Our once comfortable home now felt like a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. The air was thick with the sense of being watched. At night, I'd lie awake, straining to hear any out-of-place noise, any hint of the presence we both felt but couldn't explain. Alex started sleeping in my room, his small frame curled up at the foot of my bed, too scared to be alone. One dusky evening, as the sun cast its last golden rays, Alex and I were in the living room when a faint thud echoed from above, startling us. With our hearts racing, we exchanged glances. The attic, usually unlocked, was a mostly forgotten space filled with relics of the past, but we rarely had any reason to go up there except to explore every once in a while. Yet that unexplained sound was like an invitation, or perhaps a challenge. Alex bit his lip, clearly torn between fear and the intrigue of a mystery unfolding in our own home. I hesitated, the weight of all the strange occurrences pressing on my mind. Yet the need to understand, to uncover the truth behind the oddities that had been disrupting our lives, spurred me on. We grabbed flashlights, the beams flickering as we made our way towards the attic stairs. Each step seemed to echo through the house, as if announcing our approach to whatever mystery awaited us. The thud had shattered the status quo, turning the attic from a mere storage space into the center of our house's many secrets. With a trembling hand, I turned the handle of the attic door. It creaked open with an eerie moan. The attic was a realm of forgotten things, shrouded in cobwebs and dust. As our flashlights pierced the gloom, we noticed something unsettling. A small cot in the corner, with a threadbare blanket and a makeshift pillow. Our hearts raced as we realized someone had been living in our attic. The signs were all there, a few cans of food, a battered old backpack, a collection of our family's belongings, gathered as if they held some sentimental value. The truth dawned on us. The strange occurrences weren't the work of ghosts or our imagination. Someone real, flesh and blood, had been sharing our home, unseen, moving through the shadows. We backed away, fear gripping our hearts. We needed to tell Dad, to let him know that our home was no longer just ours. As we turned to leave, a draft of air stirred the papers on a small table. Drawn by a morbid curiosity, I approached and saw sketches, drawings of our family, of the house, and of scenes from our daily lives. The realization that this stranger had been observing us so closely sent a shiver down my spine. Rushing downstairs, we found Dad in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Our words tumbled out in a frantic rush, telling him about the attic, the cot, the drawings. His expression shifted from disbelief to concern, then to a grim resolve. He called the police, and within minutes, our house was swarming with officers. The police officers conducted a thorough search of our home, their footsteps and voices creating a noise of unsettling sounds. As they neared the attic, a hidden panel in the wall was discovered, revealing a narrow, shadowy passage. It was through here the man had been moving around, staying hidden right under our noses. What they found next chilled us to our very core. The man, now cornered and unable to escape, was taken into custody. As the officers led him away, his wild, haunted eyes met mine, sending a shiver down my spine. The police later revealed his disturbing past. His name was Trevor Mecca. He had escaped from an asylum roughly 20 miles outside of town. 2 decades ago, he had taken a family hostage in their own home, an ordeal that ended in a nightmarish revelation of him crafting grotesque puppets from their flesh. His escape and subsequent hiding in our house were no coincidence. The attic, once a place of innocent childhood explorations, now bore the heavy air of his presence. The drawings we found, once seemingly innocent sketches, took on a sinister meaning. They were not just observations, they were his way of integrating us into his delusional world. In the following days, our home felt different. The strange occurrences stopped, but the sense of violation remained. Our safe haven had been breached, its sanctity disturbed. We were left with a lingering sense of unease, a wariness of the shadows that lingered in the corners of our rooms. Dad had new locks installed, and the attic was cleaned out, the last vestiges of the stranger's presence removed. But the memories remained, etched into the walls of the house, into the very fabric of our family. Looking back, I realized that the house was never haunted by ghosts, but by something far more eerie, the presence of a stranger, living among us, unseen yet intimately intertwined with our lives. It was a stark reminder of the thin cloak that separates the known from the unknown. Our lives eventually returned to normal, or as normal as they could be. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I find myself listening for the faint whispers of the house, half expecting to hear the soft shuffling of feet in the walls or the distant sound of a piano note. The mystery of the man in the attic has become just another part of the house's lore, a story to be told and retold, a reminder of the summer when our home revealed its hidden depths and showed us that reality can be stranger and more unsettling than any ghost story.